campaign posters in Baghdad for the upcoming Iraqi parliamentary elections. April 19, 2018. Photo, AFP Abdul-Qahar Mustafa, exclusive to Record.net. Candidates of political parties are leaving no stone unturned towards connecting with the people in order to send their messages out and influence the mind of as many voters as they can to win the Iraqi parliament election. Candidates are using digital media such as TV channels to get their messages across to the public. Leaders of different Iraqi political parties are also actively taking part in the election campaign by holding public speeches and using different techniques and tools to woo people to vote for the candidates of their own political parties. Some TV channels are subtly and professionally endorsing candidates of certain political parties, the parties who own the same TV channels that its reporters interview its candidates. This obviously means that TV channels are taking positions and sides in the elections rather than simply reporting the news of elections and campaign of candidates independently. I have notices that the reporters of different TV channels who belong to certain political parties keep cutting off and speaking over the viewpoints of people from opposition sides when they hold live interview with people in the streets over elections. TV reporters distort and block the viewpoints of people who happen to be from opposite different political parties. They do not want people who they perceive as hurting the campaign of their candidates to send their messages out to public through their TV channel. They also censor pre-recorded interview with people who happen to criticize their political parties or candidates or the previous governments for not doing enough work to serve the public. Different leaders and candidates are making different claims and telling different stories to people through their public speeches in order to promote rallies behind them and win the election. Some of the candidates who belong to ruling parties in Iraq are exploiting ISIS war victory to win votes. They glorify the martyrs and military so much, and they are trying to convert the military victory against ISIS into a political appeal at the ballot box to gain more votes. Candidates of certain Iraqi political parties are claiming in their public speech that if it was not for the martyrs and military services man who is affiliate to their political parties, ISIS terrorist would kill all Iraqi people. It seems to be a very smart and powerful way to convince as many people as they can to win their votes. Many people are falling for these speeches and showing sympathy for candidates who use this kind of tools and of claims. However, there are people who have a second thought regarding the election and the sacrifices of military servicemen of Iraq against ISIS. They take Iraqi parliamentary election and the fight against ISIS war as two separate things. I personally believe that the victory against the ISIS terrorist was great, but it should not be the criteria as who to vote for in the election, because people need more than only protection from terrorists. They need to live in a country where there is rule of law, true democracy, freedom, respect for human rights and economic prosperity. I also personally understand that fighting and protecting people from being harmed by terrorists is a noble job. I have a lot of respect for those who join military, especially those who sacrificed their lives for the country and people, and those who voluntarily joined the service without expecting anything in return for their devotion and sacrifices. But many people in the military do not fight terrorists for free. They get paid, they get insurance and even land plots and housing. And when they die, their families and children get pensions and priority for jobs appointment in both public and private sectors. They also get benefits after they leave the service. Furthermore, not all people who join military services are heroes or patriots. There are different types of people who join the military. For some, it is a family trade. Others are patriots, eager to serve and die for their country. There are also those who just need a job. Many of the people who go to the military service in Iraq are just doing it because they have no other option. They are illiterate and could not educate themselves and get a career in other fields and make it in civilian life. It just seems naive to think that all people join military because they love their people and country so much. Different reasons motivate the army personnel to fight for the nation. But in the case of Iraqi army, mostly in the sole reason so many people have joined military services because they do not have any other career and they need a job which can support their family financially. I have come across many military servicemen who are illiterate, arrogant, and rude. They have humiliated me and rubbed their military service in my face. They feel that they are superior to the rest of people and are entitled to everything because they say, "We fought Saddam and ISIS for your freedom." While reports indicate that many commanders of Iraqi military have been operating outside the framework of law. They smuggle oil to the neighboring countries, they use military vehicles for personal use such as taking their families to shopping and picnic and parties. Their children also take vehicles for recreational activities. Some of them don't even follow traffic rules. Some of them drive military car without a plate number regardless of peace and war times. There are also military servicemen in Iraq who are affiliated to political parties. They usually defend their parties in debates and arguments when people criticize political parties that have made mistakes in the past while serving in the government institutions. The moment you open your mouth and criticize and complain about poor public services or high unemployment rate or corruption and lawlessness in Iraq, these military servicemen will interrupt you and threaten you to stop the criticism. They change the subject and bring up the war of ISIS and how they protected civilians from being kidnapped and killed by ISIS terrorists and rub it all in your face as if they have done a favor for you and you owe them something. They also give credit to the leaders of their political parties and all other servicemen and martyrs who belong to the same political party. In fact, servicemen who are affiliated to certain political parties crow about their victory and accomplishment they have achieved against ISIS excessively. They rub it in the face of people whenever people complain and criticize the mistakes of political parties who they are affiliated to. Brag about their services and try to pass themselves as superior to the rest of people to the point of rudeness and humiliation of others. In addition, there have been cases where an Iraqi serviceman has disrespected a civilian by telling him, "If it wasn't for my service and protection, ISIS terrorists would come and sleep with your wife and sisters." Quote, "However, if it was not for American military help, the Iraqi army alone would not be able to defeat ISIS terrorists, neither would be able to overthrow Saddam regime." If being a serviceman or fighting a terrorist group means a military serviceman is superior to the rest of citizens and can humiliate people when they speak their mind, then I personally call that discrimination. If military servicemen are entitled to special rights over the rest of people and can deny people the right to freedom of speech or criticism of rulers, I call those military dictators, not freedom fighters. Military servicemen and all other security forces in Iraq need to respect civilians and should not impose their will on civilians or restrict their basic human rights, or rub their service in the face of people. People know that military power cannot prosper without civilians' help. How can you think that any army will survive without the help of science? In every field, whether it is weapons, equipment or health, science and civilian scientists such as engineers have helped the military power to grow and achieve victories. Without science, it would be impossible for an Iraqi army to defeat ISIS. However, from a military serviceman or a politician point of view, army members are special citizens and have a great intention to fight for the country. I respect their intention, but I do not see why they should be treated better or more than a doctor, engineer, firefighter or any other profession who are serving the country on a daily basis without killing anyone. I appreciate the work of armed forces, but I do not think they should be held up as being the ultimate and the best citizens of Iraq. Respect and politeness should not be special for anyone, and that you should treat everyone that way. You shouldn't ignore a huge part of someone's life, as that would be impolite and disrespectful. But you should endeavor to treat everyone you encounter with respect unless they prove themselves unworthy of it. There are times when extra respect and deference is appropriate for the military people in your life, such as Military Day or Memorial and Martyr Day, but in general they are people like you and me and should be treated as you would want to be treated. And finally, as far as history concerns, wars happen for different reasons and have different outcomes for different people. Some wars have happened because leaders, usually a king, emperor, khan or a tribal chiefs, wanted to conquer land, accumulate wealth, power, or to glorify the national identity and reputation for themselves or their heirs. While some wars happen for a just cause to rid of evil tyrant, dictators and oppressing rulers. However, some people benefit from wars but some people do not. Usually people who lose in a war are civilians and the poor class. While the one who benefit from wars are rulers and the ruling parties of the nation, military-industrial complex, and not only factories but also banker, proxy allies, the weapon suppliers, money-lending allies and politicians to win votes. In fact, sometimes wars can act as a perfect excuse for corrupt politicians to siphon off money. The Iraqi war against ISIS was a just war. It was fought to protect people from being hurt by a brutal terrorist organization. But political parties should not use the credit of ISIS war victory, the blood that martyrs spilled, the service that military have done for the country as a tool to win parliament election. The news media also should not be controlled by political parties and government to serve only the interests of a small number of people belong to a specific political party or business enterprise. Media and journalists are supposed to be free and independently serve as a check against centers of political power of government in order to maintain a balanced, healthy society, because a free and independent press is an essential pillar of democracy. Abdul-Qahar Mustafa is a graduate student from St. Louis High School in Canada. He is advocate of justice, democracy and human rights. He currently lives in Sarsang, Duhok, Iraqi Kurdistan. Mustafa is a senior contributing writer for Record. The views expressed are the author's alone and do not necessarily represent the views of Record.net or its editors. Copyright 2018 Record.net. All rights reserved. Comments. Place your ad here. Loading.